And Barb, we're going to answer that question for you. What is LLI and NOVA in just a minute? But let me get started by saying good afternoon and welcome. I'm Trudy Murata, a volunteer community ambassador with AARP Virginia. And from our earliest beginnings, AARP has championed lifelong learning. And that's why AARP is thrilled to be collaborating with the Lifetime Learning Institute of Northern Virginia to bring our members a sampling of the rich programs they offer each semester. For more than 60 years, AARP has been a wise friend and a fierce defender, helping individuals ensure that their money, health, and happiness live as long as they do. AARP has earned this reputation through trusted information, tools, and advocacy designed to protect the health and financial security of older Americans and empower them to choose how they live as they age. As this wise friend in your corner, AARP helps you protect yourself and your loved ones from fraud with our Fraud Watch network. Get healthy and stay healthy. Care for loved ones, make connections, plan a trip, learn new technologies, attend a class, and have fun, like what we are doing today with the Lifetime Learning Institute of Northern Virginia. So I hope you'll continue to take advantage of these opportunities and more. And Patty, would you tell all of our guests about Lifetime Learning with Northern Virginia?
I would be happy to, Trudy. Thank you. I am the new president of LLI Nova. We are, as Trudy said, a senior lifelong learning institute located in connection with NOVA, the Northern Virginia Community College. As such, we are a fairly small lifetime learning institute, as a lot of them go. We have about 275 members, but we offer everything from approximately 120 classes separated into 4 semesters every year. We offer 9 forums, which are open to the general public. And we also have special interest groups or clubs and various committees. Our charge is actually, we think, one of the best deals in town. It is an all-encompassing fee of $125. And you can take any or all of our classes, which would keep you rather busy. And they are both Zoom and in person. Our special interest groups run the gamut from bridge to 2 book clubs, a foodies group. We have tabletop games. So we have a wide variety, probably about 12 or 13 special interest groups. And those are open actually to members as well as to members' friends. So you do not have to be a member of LLI. We also have various committees. 2 of our most active committees are a study travel committee, which sets up a couple of international trips every year. And in addition to that, we have cultural excursions and visual performing arts. Cultural excursions are typically day trips to areas of interest in the DMV. The visual and performing arts allows us to get to locations such as the Kennedy Center or George Mason Patriot Center at greatly reduced prices. It is a real deal. And basically, I like to give this kind of introductory speech, spiel, whatever, because a lot of people in the greater District of Maryland, Virginia, the DMV as we call it, are not necessarily aware of us. And so if any of you all are checking in from Maryland or the district, check us out at our website at llinova.org. And with that, I think I will turn it back to Trudy and we'll get started with the program. Thank you for coming.
Oh.
You're muted, Trudy.
Yeah, actually,
Okay, I'm going to throw it back to Debbie Cohen with the LLI group for introductions.
Thanks, Trudy. So, welcome everybody, LLI members and AARP registrants. Really happy to have you here today for our program. I just wanted to let you know we have 2 more of these programs coming up this week and next week. One on serial killers this Friday at 1:30 to 3, and one the following Wednesday in the morning on J. Robert Oppenheimer from 10 to 11:30 in the morning. So if you're interested, we can provide that information. I am very happy to introduce our moderator and panelist, Joanne Cohen, and there is a reason why we have the same last name, because Joanne is my sister-in-law, Steve's sister, and we have done several programs with her and her colleagues from the Brain Injury Hope Foundation in Littleton, Colorado. And I'm just going to introduce Joanne. She has a lot of experience. She's a certified brain injury specialist, and her panel has a lot of experience and background in our topics today. So, Joanne?
Thank you, Debbie and Trudy and Steve. Thanks for inviting us. And you can see the pictures of our esteemed panelists that will be introducing themselves soon. We believe that this is such an important topic to be able to advocate for yourself. And if you can't advocate for yourself, to be able to figure out who can advocate for you. And we all of us on this team here are part of the Brain Injury Hope Foundation, as Debbie said. And if you want to show that slide, Gayann, the next slide. And we've all been taking the healing journey, and we've all had to either learn how to, or we've had natural talents to be able to advocate for ourselves. And Gayann will be talking about not only herself, but she and the coaching that we do to help other people advocate for themselves. We are going to today discuss the importance of self-advocacy and define it. We're going to give you the skills. We'll talk about skills. We're going to talk about the benefits or the why, traits of an advocate, if you are going to be an advocate for somebody or for yourself, as well as finding advocates when you don't know where to go and what to do. And then we'll end with some quotes and some Q&A. If you have questions, please put them in the chat, and Jenna and Gayann will be monitoring that. If we don't get to your question, please stay afterwards. We'll turn off the recording. We'd be happy to answer any of your personal questions that we don't get to, because time is flying, and we want to make sure that we end on time for this first part. So with that, I'd like to, I'll actually give you one example that just happened last month that really made me practice everything that we talk about here and what we preach. Because I had to, and many of you might be able to relate to this, I had to go get cataract surgery. And my surgeon that I just adored and loved quickly retired, and I got referred to somebody else who was a very different personality with no bedside manner, did one-up, one-downs, was really hard to connect with, didn't have good people skills. I could go on, which is really difficult for someone like me who likes to be in relationship with people that I'm working with, or they're going to be doing any type of surgery. So I had to kind of lean into that and let go of the fact that if he's an excellent surgeon, that's what I need. And he was going to do both eyes at the same time, which sounds out of the box, and it was, but I'm really glad that happened. So the biggest thing I had to advocate for, he had put intermediate lenses, and I knew I needed distance lenses. I wanted distance lenses, and the woman who's going to be making, the doctor who's going to be making my new glasses this week, in fact, said that that's what I need because of my brain injuries. And so I started to write through the portal and got ignored. And so many people, and maybe myself in the past when I was younger, might just say, okay, was just going to trust the process or just let it go. But this was too important to me to have the lenses that I knew I needed. And so I wrote in the portal and said, I've been a member of XYZ. I don't want to say who they were. I've been a member since 2010. I've never had a doctor or a doctor's office ignore me and not answer a question. This is a really important question, and I'd really appreciate if somebody would get back to me. Not only so that I got a phone call personally from the doctor right after I did that. And then 2 people from his office started answering me anytime I wrote an email. That's advocating. Then they would not confirm that I would have my lenses that I wanted. So I wrote again, and they said that the doctor is aware of the fact that you want that. Well, being aware and confirming and telling me are 2 different things. So then I wrote back and said, I'm really happy he's aware. Will you please confirm he's actually going to do that? And finally, I got paperwork that said that. So that takes patience and perseverance and an intention, and there's a power to intention. And I had a very successful surgery. I have my distance lenses and in my eyes, and I'm very happy with the whole thing. And I wouldn't have been happy if he gave me the intermediate, and I would be having a lot of trouble right now. So that's just one example of the power of advocating for yourself. Before we continue, Gayann, if you go to the next slide, and you can see our disclaimer. Basically, we're not giving any, consult your physicians, your attorneys for any medical and legal advice. That's the essence of this. So we'll just move forward from here. And so before we actually give you the definition, I'd like to have our panelists introduce themselves and tell us in a couple minutes your story and working with people, either working with people that have needed to advocate for themselves or your own story about how you have done that. And I'm going to start with you, Jenna.
All right, I'm ready to go. Hello, everybody. Thanks for joining. My name is Jenna, and I I have had multiple brain injuries, but I had a really terrible, big one, the big one, in January 2017. It was an unlikely event. I was skiing, and I hit my ski tip got stuck in a mogul, and I went around the mogul successively many times, and I ended up getting free. And then I hit my head on the mogul successively. I balanced in a perfect fulcrum, upside down, came to upside down, and managed to get myself down to the lodge where they took me in. And I spent a year dedicated just to my physical recovery. And that's where my baseline is. And my journey since then has really dictated what decisions I make moving forward, how I expend my energy. We'll talk about the energy and our reserves in a little bit ahead, but that's how I came into being an advocate for brain health.
Thanks, Jenna. What about you, Jeffrey?
My name is Jeff, and in 2008, I fell through a hole in a roof and woke up in a hospital about a week later. And excuse me, the biggest thing I'll say is, at first I needed some advocates because, I had attorneys and doctors talking to me about some very, very complicated issues, and I didn't understand any of it. So, my brother sort of took over the attorneys, my sister, the doctors. And so I always had them to lean on when I was confused about everything. And then after that, I learned. And, now I'm helping some other folks that are a little bit newer to the process of a brain injury. And so, I've been helping them out, and it's quite the process. It's a busy world once you need those things. And so, I've been doing my best. Nice to meet everybody.
Thanks, Jeffrey. Gayann?
Hi, everyone. I'm Gayann. I'm happy to be here today and glad you could join us. I have spent most of my career working with people with disabilities and their families. And I guess that all started when I was advocating for my aunt who has two sons who have autism and multiple disabilities, and kind of learned the craft as a young adult, helping her navigate through the systems that you have to navigate through. And most of us have navigated through medical systems and government bureaucracies. So I think we're going to talk, we talk a lot about brain injuries, but any kind of a disability, any kind of an issue that you might be having, we have to learn how to advocate. And once you have the skills, it kind of crosses over into everything. I'm myself, besides spending most of my career in this area, I myself have had a mild cognitive impairment, and you might notice it today at times, but I had chemotherapy, a surgery, and COVID, all in the matter of a year. And since then, my brain just doesn't quite work as well as it used to. So between that and, as they say, oh, you're just getting older. Yeah, between that and age, I'm sure all of us have some kind of issues that we could use. We either have to advocate for ourselves, or we can use some outside advocacy, whether it's family members or professionals. And I think I've kind of done all of those at one time or another. So we'll be happy to share our expertise and stories as we go along today.
Thanks, Gayann. So as you can see, these are the definitions of self-advocacy. And the term self-advocacy and its philosophy was actually born in Sweden in the 1960s, when young adults with disabilities began speaking out and taking control of their own lives by forming their own leisure clubs. So national conferences for those club members were held in 1968 and 1970, wherein the participants developed statements about how they wanted to be treated. So for thousands of people with disabilities around the world, self-advocacy is a term of personal identity that comes with a multitude of benefits. And so you don't have to have a disability today, folks, to have things that happen in your life to advocate for yourself. And people who self-advocate enjoy a higher quality life as they have confidence in themselves, as they know how to properly express their feelings, and they're empowered to make their own decisions. And just the story I shared with you, I was empowered to get what I knew I wanted and needed. And so that's really important. We're going to talk about some self-advocacy skills, and that's the next slide, please. And one of the skills is about being courageous. Jeffrey, you want to talk about that one?
Sure. What I wrote there is, do I have the courage to get out of my own way? And, the biggest thing I meant about that was sort of, surrendering my ego and asking for help. As simple as that may sound, it was a difficult process for me. And I was also, a very confused person trying to navigate a very confusing world, but it was very much a gray area. And so, yes, it did become a skill, which was interesting. But yeah, I would ask for clarity. I would also let doctors know when I didn't understand something. I was no longer afraid to sort of share my confusion. And that became one of my bigger questions was, do I understand what's happening right now? And if I didn't, I would say something, or I would write it down, because often enough, it wasn't always on the other person, it was on me. I'd be tired, or, whatever it was. And so then I would write down the question and, and take it home. And then after that, I wasn't afraid of calling them, emailing them, sort of what Joanne was talking about. But, that clarity was what I was seeking. And if I didn't have it, I would keep working until I had it.
Thanks, Jeffrey. And also, and not only did you have the courage, you let yourself be vulnerable. And it's okay. It's actually, sometimes we look at vulnerability and we think it's a weakness. And I really believe, and we believe, it's a strength to let yourself be vulnerable, to ask for help, and to be courageous. You want to be an active participant in your process and know when you're able to advocate for yourself and know yourself. Gayann, talk a little bit about that, because you talk with a lot of people that have not been able to advocate for themselves.
Yes, for a wide variety of reasons, sometimes people can't advocate for themselves. It might be that cognitively they're not able to advocate for themselves. They've had someone else always advocating for themselves, whether it be a spouse or a parent, something like that. I've worked with a lot of people with mental health and intellectual disabilities that don't really understand all the issues and see it from various sides. And even just something like a learning disability can make it very difficult to advocate for yourself and be an active participant if you don't understand what people are trying to tell you. They say, oh yeah, well, we'll send you information by email. Can you even get into your email? Those kinds of things. So there's a lot of reasons why people have difficulty advocating for themselves and being that active participant. And those are the folks that, really do need to be courageous and really do need to say, geez, I'm not getting this. Some days I totally understand things and other days not so much. So anyway, you just have to recognize that you're not always 100%. And then other times you have to know that, because of what's going on in my life right now, whether it's grief or a disability or whatever, I'm probably not in the best place to be an active participant right now and do everything by myself. And that's okay.
Yeah, and that brings up another example. A year and a half ago, when I went home for my 50th reunion, fell down some stairs at my cousin's house, and this is also during COVID. So I was rushed to the hospital, and they wouldn't let my cousins in the hospital. So here I am with a hurt body, a broken wrist. I knew I had another brain injury, and I knew I had a brain bleed. And I said to the people in the ambulance, I have a brain bleed. I never had one before. I just intuitively felt it. They said, you don't have a brain bleed. They looked in my eyes then. I got into the hospital emergency, said to the doctor, I think I have a brain bleed. You don't have brain bleed. So I made sure that they were going to do x-rays, that they x-rayed my head. Meanwhile, when after the x-ray, they roll me into a room and this doctor says, I'm Dr. So-and-so, and I'm sorry, but to tell you this, but you have a brain bleed. Well, yeah, I've been trying to tell you that. Well, then when he said they might, if it doesn't go away with the next CAT scan or that they do at the middle of the night, you're going to have brain surgery. At that moment, that was very scary. And I phoned a friend, meaning my brother, Stephen Cohen. And I asked him to talk to the doctor. At that point, I leaned in. I could not advocate for myself at that point. So I had Steve advocate and listen to the doctor and explain some things to me. So that's, again, not knowing when I was able and not able to advocate. You want to be able to express your needs and your wants. And you also have to have a mindset. And Jenna's got some insights on mindset. And you'll need to unmute. Thank you.
Yeah. So prior to my January 2017 biggie, I was very much a practitioner of mindfulness and being very cognizant of my mindset, and that really helped me in my recovery. Mindset plays a huge role in our well-being overall, and some people get stuck in this victim mentality, and victim mentality has no, it's the right word I want to say, no business in recovery, because like Jeffrey said, do I have the courage to get out of my way? And if we become vulnerable and accept that we really do need help, that is a huge catapulting step in the recovery process itself. And then like I'm having one of my brain farts right now. What was the question again?
About mindset.
Mindset.
In terms of
Yeah.
self-advocating for yourself.
Yes. And so, you have to have this determination and be resilient and believe that you can get better. And this goes back to, I I'm a very high E extrovert and very type A person. I had really great compensatory strategies before this happened to me, but with my brain injury, my personality just left. Like it just took a hike, and I was zero. I was flat, and my neurologist told me and gave me the belief that I was going to get better and my personality would return. And I remember telling Joanne the very first time we talked that I was so scared that I was never going to be me again, and like my shining personality would never come back, and my eyes wouldn't twinkle, and my smile wouldn't, liven up a room. So you have to have that belief, that mindset in a way that is productive to healing, and if it's not just healing but coping.
And there's something else that's really important for all of us who deal with the medical community, and that's you had a doctor who believed in you and who gave you, who partnered with you. And that's the thing. If you are feeling with anybody that you're working with isn't going to do that, then you have a choice to make. Are you going to stay with that person? Because there are some people that might not understand your situation in the medical profession or just tell you the worst case scenario and don't give you any hope. And so it's always good to get second and third opinions also.
Well, and it was so important in my position, because I was single, alone. I had no family support, zero, 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 zero. And so I needed just that one person. And thankfully it was my neurologist, and she set me on the proper course. And I know that advocating for myself, one of the things, this is a very important point, because my neurologist said, and I listened and I took what she said to heart, stress is the biggest enemy that we have with any brain impairment. If we have stress, it counteracts our healing. So I had a relationship within my family that was contributing to the problem and not being a part of the solution. And what she wasn't, it was my mother, she wasn't helping. And I had to sever that relationship for several years while I went through this, because she wasn't helping me. And we have to, at that point, when part of advocating for ourselves is knowing when people in our lives are not helpful to us. And if they are anchoring us in any way, negatively anchoring us and holding us back, holding us down, then we have to be strong and let it go and focus on ourselves. And that is another way that I advocated for myself.
And that was pretty tough at the time, I remember.
It was gut wrenching. Yeah, gut wrenching.
But tell them the good news about that now.
We reconciled, and it's been a learning. Old dogs can learn new tricks. Let's just say that.
Right.
Yeah. And we do have a close relationship again. And she's learning to, give to other people.
So sometimes when you advocate for yourself, you have to make some tough decisions.
Yeah.
And you have to do what's really best for you. Whatever's going on in your life, and whatever we're talking, some of us have had brain injuries, and there's people here with strokes, Parkinson's, MS, people with COVID brain, long-term COVID, whatever a situation is. And it's really about what's going to heal you, and what people are you going to surround yourself with that are going to be holding you up and not putting you down. That's part of advocating for yourself too. And thanks for hearing that.
I have
Jen.
one more thing that I want to add to this before we move on is my mindset. I adapted my own mantra, and I still use it as a barometer for the decisions that I make, and it's reclaim my life. And I wanted very much to reclaim my life as much as I could. I didn't know what that extent meant, or especially, 7 years ago, I had no idea that I would be high functioning. I didn't know if I own my own business. I didn't know if I could continue to work in that capacity. I didn't know anything, but I gave it 150% of what I had. And I made that, every decision I made was, does this help me reclaim my life? If it doesn't, then I didn't do it.
Yeah,
So mindset is huge.
it's powerful. You also have to understand, you want to understand what needs to be achieved and set realistic goals. And sometimes we set goals that are way too high and not achievable, and then we give up or we feel we're failing. Fail, F-A-I-L, is really for all I learn. So you want to be realistic and have people on your dream team, as I call it, the people that are going to hold you up and work with you, both professionals, non-professionals, family, friends, whoever, and make sure that the goals are realistic. And then you can make informed choices on the information, resources. Important to ask questions. Sometimes, we do one up, one downs where somebody's up here and we're down here, and it's okay to ask questions. This is you and it's your life, and know when to ask others to advocate. And Gayann's going to really go into that in a little while. And know and learn your rights and keep accurate records and notes. So it's important to know your rights. Anyone on the panel want to talk about that one?
I guess I could talk a little bit about knowing my rights, because I had to talk to my employer about an accommodation because of my health issues. And well, luckily, because I've helped so many people over the years with disabilities and employment, I knew quite a bit about the ADA and what my rights were. And I did know to keep accurate records and notes. And so anyway, you definitely have to educate yourself and reach out to people if you don't know what legal rights you have around different issues. And you don't always have to hire an attorney, but you do have to know what resources are available. Like the EEOC, I could have filed a case against my employer for free. I didn't even need an attorney, but I didn't know that initially. I had to learn that on the go. So anyway, definitely learn what your rights are, and make sure that your records need to say the date, the time, who you talked to, what they said, your response. An email chain is good, but I just say pull out a notebook and start writing down every single day what happened. So those are just some tips in that area.
Good, thank you. It's important to be assertive. Sometimes we come from a passive place or we come too aggressive. With that doctor, with my eyes, I felt like I wanted to be aggressive and tell him off, but I didn't. I just kept doing what I shared with you in an assertive manner. Know yourself, know what your needs are, know how to get what you want and what you need. And if you don't, then you'll want to have somebody else that's going to help you with that. And it's also about being determined. You can hear the stories already from our panelists about the determination and the power of intention. Next slide, please. You want to practice positive self-talk. When you're down, this helps you to get up. Don't take no for an answer. That's really important. Sometimes the first no, we just say okay, and when it's really not okay, it's good to get a second opinion, third opinion, and to keep being clear. Clarity leads to power and personal empowerment. Be clear what it is you want. Jeffrey already talked about asking for help, and it's okay to ask for help. Is there anything else you want to add to that one, Jeffrey, or wants to move on? Okay, and you stood up for yourself. Everybody here on this panel, we've had to stand up for ourselves. And then there's also the power of being resilient and looking at the sense of resiliency. When I fell down the stairs, it was pretty bad. And it's not the only thing that's happened in my life. It's about the resiliency that I've acquired or learned, or it's natural talent. I probably got some of it from my parents, to be able to not stay in victim mentality and poor me, ain't it awful? I'm a victim martyr, and keep telling the story over and over and over again. It's really like, what are you going to do to get your life back to your next new normal, to be the very best version of yourself, the very best life that you can have. And questioning, it's not being afraid to ask questions. And is the medical profession, I went and helped a friend of mine, and she gave me a list of questions, and I was there taking notes for her. So she wanted me to do that. Other friends I've advocated for. So you think you're going to remember everything, and when you're going into a doctor's office, a lawyer's office, wherever you are, write it down and have somebody take notes for you so you can actively listen, and or if you're really good at taking notes and actively listen, then you can do it yourself because you're worth it. That's it. You really, and you got to get that. You're worth it. And you want to challenge any negative beliefs that you have when you're advocating for yourselves, and own what's going on. Take a sense of ownership. And the dream team, I mentioned that before, really important to have a dream team. You know, with the fall down the stairs, for me, it was the physical therapist, the chiropractor, you know, working again with a grief counselor because of the things that had happened and to my body at that time, and putting together, and friends, putting together all the people that are the dream team for that particular situation that are going to help you and lend support and listen to you and advocate for you, or help you advocate for yourself. Panelists, anything else to add before we move on?
I was just going to mention, when you said resilient, people get resilience from various places. And one area that I get resilience from is my faith. And so you might think of it as a higher power, you might think of it as faith, you might think of it in various ways. But I think that is, sometimes you just gotta kind of let go and let somebody else take over for you, and it might be a higher power.
Well, and I think too, to piggyback on what you said, Gayann, is that it's, and what Jeffrey said earlier, it's our ego, our personal ego gets in the way a lot. And we, you know, sometimes we don't even know we're getting in our own way. And if we let go of that ego, then the resilience naturally forms and is able to rise.
Absolutely.
I always try to remember, and this is what helped me get the ego out of the way, was how many times that I've helped people, right? If somebody drops their wallet or is having trouble with the door or the elevator or whatever it is, it's our natural inclination to help. It's just very difficult to go the other direction, you know, but everybody naturally wants to help.
Okay, thank you. We're going to show you a model that we think, and that's the next page. It's an energy allocation model. And I think this model is really important, whether you have a brain injury, MS, Parkinson's, stroke, COVID brain, functioning as we get older, some of the things in the aging process. And Jenna, I'm going to give this one to you to explain this energy pie, because all four of us, this has changed our lives. So give a high level overview, if you would.
Sure. If you take a look at the left side of the diagram, I want you to focus on half of the pie. Half of the pie is what's left over from all of our daily functioning for a healthy brain. That includes your cognitive demands, your emotional, and your physical demands. And if you contrast that with the diagram on the right, you can see how much more effort and energy it takes for those physical, cognitive, and emotional demands. And the reserve is so much smaller. And when our reserve is done, the brain there's just nothing left. And we like sputter, we lie on the couch until we can reset that depleted energy. And I think this is an important tool that I've used in introducing new people into my life. Like I said, I'm very single. I was very single when this happened, and I was dating, and I had, I wanted people, if I was going to see them again, and even my friends and my family, I'm like, you guys need to understand this, because today I'm great, right? But yesterday I didn't do much, so that today I would be strong and feeling well. And we have to allocate how we use our energy. And if the people in our immediate circle, if they don't understand that we only have a portion of energy reserves, then they're not going to be able to be in good community with us, because they're not going to be able to understand. So I think this is something that was helpful for me to go, oh, this is why I'm tiring. This is why, you know, and it's different too. Like, this is an example. Like, for me, cognitive demand is where my weakness is. So on like my chart, my physical demand could be really small, because playing tennis, working out, walking, anything outside physical, that doesn't take any extra demand than before my injury. My injury affected my cognition. And so my cognitive demands, you know, if I were to make this, I would say that's half my circle. So, and I'm a thinker for my work. And so it's kind of a tough thing, right? Too bad that my physical, but you know, we all get what we get, and we just have to adapt. But this is very important, I think, because we can look at it and say, oh, well, that makes sense. That's why I'm tired. And it's also an educational tool to help other people understand where we are. And especially on any given day, like, it changes every day.
Let me just interject. There's a question about what's TBI brain. That's one example we have here. That's traumatic brain injury. It can also be an ABI brain, which is an acquired brain injury, stroke, MS, Parkinson's, and actually it can be any brain that's not 100% healthy. You know, for what if you've had an assault to the brain in any way, shape, or form. And then, of course, as the aging process goes on, that chips away at some things with our brain too. So I hope that answers your question on that. This is a really important model, and you can look at it and say, how does this apply to me? And this, do I have the brain to the left? Or if I had to draw a diagram here, what would it look like for me, for my physical, emotional, cognitive demands, and how much is left for that reserve? And like Jenna said, when your reserves are blown out, that's when you can get into brain freeze. That's when you can't think. That's when you do word search, when you can't get your words. That's when you have speed of processing issues, where so much is happening and you can't keep up with it. So there are all sorts of things that happen with our brains. So that's a model we wanted to share with you. I wanted to ask the panelists I gave a couple examples of stories of how I advocated for myself. If any one of you or all three of you would like to give a short story that would be pertinent to this audience today about how you advocated for yourself, that would be very helpful.
I recently had a friend of mine explain that it would be very wise for me to get another full neuropsychological evaluation. You know, I had a few issues and I wasn't really certain of them. And so, but one of the things I've learned over the years is, rather than asking my neurologist or my doctor for this, I sent him a message and I said, hey, I'm going to have a full neuropsychological evaluation. And I was wondering if you could help me do that. You know, it wasn't a question form. It was, this is what's going to happen. And sure enough, within, the next time I saw him, he gave me a little test to test my memory. And then he had a good reason to order one of those. And it happened a couple of weeks ago, and I'm still waiting for the results. But the biggest thing I've learned, especially with these professionals, is just to remove the question and make it a statement. And that helped me quite a bit.
That's great, Jeffrey. Thank you. Gayann or Jenna?
I have a recent situation where I have pain in my leg, and they could not figure out why I had all these images done. I know we're kind of focusing on medical things right now, but it could be financial. It could be anything having to do with, our
Legal.
yeah, you name it. But in this situation, all the images came back and it was like, there's nothing wrong with your leg. I was like, oh, really? It's all in my head, huh? Well, it turns out I eventually figured out a doctor did recommend, after I just wouldn't take no for an answer, that I have a nerve conduction test, and I have a bulging disc in my back, and it was causing all the pain in my leg. And so then, and ever since then, they'll be like, how's your back feel today? I'm like, my back is fine. It doesn't even hurt. I know I have a bulging disc, but all the pain is in my leg. So I have to explain this over and over again when I talk to doctors. It's like, I don't have pain in my back. I know I have a problem with my back, but my pain is elsewhere. And you know, doctors don't like to mess around with pain because they think you're after drugs, which I don't do well on drugs, so I'm not after drugs. But you know, is there anything else I can do besides narcotics? So anyway, that's kind of a recent thing that pops into my brain. I also think I've had to advocate quite a bit for my mother and my father in the last year and a half, 2 years, because of their health and issues and anyway, that whole process has just been a constant of tracking, helping them track what they can't track. You know, whether it's here are all the doctors that you're seeing, here is what you're being prescribed by who, here's when the prescription is running out, here's what the dosage is, here's the last time you've seen them, here's the next time you're going to see them, here's who you have to book an appointment with. And you know, I do spreadsheets. That's my thing. So anyway, I've got spreadsheets for my mom and my dad. My dad has since passed, but anyway, that was one way for me to help from a distance, because I have family that live right by my mom and dad. But I live in Denver, they live in South Dakota, and so I was able to help in some of those ways, long distance.
Thanks, Gayann. Jenna, do you have a non-medical example of advocating?
Yeah, I mean, I touched on this earlier, but the only thing I'd like to add is, you know, I devoted a full year to my physical recovery just so that I could decide, well, because it didn't matter if I didn't get well, right? I bankrupted myself. I gave everything I had into being well. And I had that 1 year, because after 1 year, I'd be like, okay, this is the test. This is when I'm going to decide, well, do I work in going back to my marketing business, and or do I have to pivot and do something else? But I advocated for myself, and I did as much therapy as I needed, as I could afford, or as I could find opportunity. And I wasn't driving, so people had to drive me. So I had to just do what I could, as much as I could within that year. That was kind of my magic number. And then I would reevaluate. And ever since then, it's still like, okay, so my physical recovery has, you know, been ongoing, but now I'm more focused on my financial recovery.
Yeah. And then getting advocates to surround you to help you with that part. Let's go to the next slide, Gayann. And there are benefits. This is the why. Why do you want to advocate for yourself? What are the benefits? You know, you get what you want and you need. It's empowerment. It really is empowering and increases your self-esteem when you stand up for yourself. You're involved in your own process and you have a say in your situation instead of having other people telling you what to do all the time, that you're an equal partner. You know, we talk about in the programs we've been doing, we shifted our philosophy from care. It used to be caretaking, and then it shifted to caregiving, and now we're calling it care partnering. So when you are actually in a partnership with someone to help them and to advocate with them, it's not about telling them what to do, it's having them have an equal say and being a partner in this, and you making sure that you have care partners too. Make your own decisions. It really helps you with your own self-esteem and self-respect. And it helps you to understand how you can help yourself, which is empowering in itself. It helps you to be more resourceful and to look at resources, or to pick an advocate who's really good at that, to set some appropriate boundaries with people. And panel, anything else you want to add in terms of benefits and the why?
One of the big things I learned over the years, not just self-respect, but I felt like self-respect came after I was respectful. You know, I am respected because I respect. And it brought me to a different level. And it also made me recognize that any sort of disrespectful doctor or nurse or anybody, I finally recognized that they are the fool in the room, not me, you know? And so that was huge. It gave me a whole new perspective, just to how I looked at the world was, you know, the person that was that way was the moron in the room, you know? And so anyway, it made me feel a lot better about all of it, so.
Thanks, Jeffrey.
I
Excuse
wanted
me.
to, I
I was
wanted
gonna
to
just-
address the chat.
Go ahead.
For a second. Okay. All right. So EL mentioned that the physical therapist was overlooking symptoms. There are no symptoms there and needing a new therapist. I mean, that is very common, is like, if you're not getting the right answer, go to another person, you know, and find somebody that can. I can't tell you how many doctors I've been through for this stupid leg. And then Jennifer talked about managing parental advocacy a full-time job. Oh boy, it is more than a full-time job. I think my two sisters that live by my mom at this point, they're both working full time. It seems like, on parental advocacy. So yes, the sandwich generation, right? You've all heard of that. You're advocating for your children. It might be adult children, and you're advocating for your parents who are elders now, and we have our hands full. And so, you know, don't remember to take care of yourself, though, because you can't advocate for other people all the time when you're run down and your energy pie is shot. You have no resources, right? And Richard talked about, how about when a provider has knowledge and an incentive to mislead? Example is auto mechanics. Yes, they are always wanting to fix something on your car that doesn't really need to be fixed, or telling you it's going to be so much money and then there's more. Yeah, definitely that is a challenge, and you do have to advocate for yourself, get second opinions.
Wait, there's another one, Gayann.
Yeah,
and
get a
that's-
more trustworthy mechanic.
Or you take somebody with you who
Yes.
really understands their
Yes.
language and what they're doing,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
and can talk their language.
Yep, definitely. Got to get a second opinion a lot of times, or have somebody with you if you don't feel comfortable. Buying a car is even another scary scenario, right? If you can find a good, reputable person and network with your people that you trust, to find someone that's reliable, right? Networking is so important, related to any kind of advocacy, I've found.
Okay, thank you. Let's move on to the traits of an advocate. And panelists, while I'm going through this, think about how you've advocated for someone else. Think about one example that you think would be pertinent to our group today. So these are traits of an advocate. And some of you, I've seen you shake your heads. Maybe you've been an advocate for other people, or you've self-advocated. An advocate listens to you. They co-partner, as I talked about before, and they involve you, they include you. They're not afraid to take a stand. We heard the expression, maybe take a stand, live your stand. That you have, this is really, I double star this, that you have the person's interest in mind versus your own self-interest, and that you work with them about what they need, not what you think they need. So just think about that, that you have the will and the skill to be an advocate. It takes skill and will. And a trusted advisor, somebody, you know, to earn credibility, trust, and respect. You do what you say you're going to do. Best way to lose it is to not do what you say you're going to do. So we have to earn credibility, trust, and respect, and be a trusted advisor to people, whether it's people we work with or people that we have made commitments to. You understand when someone does not want an advocate and when someone needs an advocate. So think about that one. It takes cooperation, communication, collaboration, presentation skills, professionalism. I know, I'm hoping I'm not scaring you off to say, I don't ever want to be an advocate, but these are the traits that we brainstorm. You're non-judgmental. You know, sometimes it's easy to get into judgment. You're non-judgmental. You really are there for them. And if you remember that, it helps you with that. And problem solver, and you're honest, and you're a person of integrity. The next page, please. Your selflessness, you know, selflessness. Again, that's instead of being selfish or having your own needs in mind, it's really about the person or about you if you're self-advocating. Straightforward, always has the best interest in mind of the person you're advocating for, including yourself. Educate yourself. know the questions to ask. We talked about questions to your medical team, to your legal team, to your financial team, to your automotive team, whoever. And we talked about taking notes. It really helps if you can be compassionate and caring and have some empathy and try to put yourself in someone else's shoes, someone who's loyal to you, kind and respectful. And I think there's a few more here, Gayann, on the next page. And that would be supports and empowers individuals to make their own decisions. Encourages self-advocacy, has the natural talent to be your advocate or somebody who really wants to learn more about this as you are today by coming here today. It's a can-do attitude instead of a can't-do attitude. You know, I don't know about you. I've been around people. Everything is negative Nelly and naysayers, and you can't do this. And, you know, they told me back in 1992, actually, they told my mother, she didn't tell me, but then she told me later that I wasn't going to walk again after an accident, a car accident, and that I have and they told me I have a limp the rest of my life. I just said that's not the truth about me. I went back to physical therapy and worked another 6 months, and you wouldn't even know when you see me walk. So I just didn't want to buy into what I was being told. I got other opinions too. And you don't give up. So these are some traits of an advocate. Panel, think about somebody that you have advocated for. And it doesn't all have to be medical, just because we've done a lot of medical, and with somebody that you've helped using these traits. Jeffrey?
The person that comes to mind has become a dear friend of mine. He asked me for help over a year ago. One of the things I make certain to explain to him often is that, this is his life, because we'll get into some long conversations and such, and I'll give him all kinds of advice and we'll talk about a lot, but I always try to remind him that, no matter what I do, this is his life and he's got to make it better for himself. I try to make sure of that. And then, I recently had to apologize to him, and I think that's a huge trait as well. As I recognize I was kind of sort of wrong. He had asked me for some help with, low income housing. He wanted to move and get into his own place. And, I finally recognized that, I've never done that and I really didn't know much about it. I mean, I didn't ignore it. We started looking, but it's an overwhelming process. And I ended up connecting him with, 2 people who had been through it and now they're helping him. And so, recognizing that, he could utilize somebody a lot better than me, and letting him know that was huge, but other than that, yeah, he began to trust me, and, he has a lot of questions and he's been through a lot, and, I'm there for him. And another, little thing I always try to remind myself too, because he's at other places and people tried to help him. And, I will say this, advocacy is definitely not a follow-up phone call every 2 weeks to make sure that the person's okay and get him off, the to-do list, if you will. And people run into that a lot too. It's just someone that isn't necessarily helping, but has convinced the person that they are. And so, anyway, so yeah, it's been great. But I think one of the biggest things for me is just to be able to recognize when I was wrong and when I was doing something wrong. And I ask myself that question often.
Thanks, Jeff. Jenna?
Yeah, I speak publicly. I went public with my brain injury, and I did so at great peril to my professional career. But I needed to be authentic, and as a result, I've been very successful with that. But I have an Instagram account that I have built a following with, and it's just me being me, talking about and giving hope to other people who have to overcome something. And to that end, I also am still building. I thought it would be out by now, but I haven't released it, a podcast, and it's called Resilience Brilliance. And that's, I just want to give and empower people far and wide, not just within my immediate sphere, because I want to give back to the community that helped me so much.
Thank you. And that's something that's in common with all 4 of us panelists. When things have happened to us, we go through our healing recovery process, and then we say, okay, what can we do? What have we learned from this? And what can we do to help others and lend support to others? And that is a form of resiliency, but it's also giving back, paying it forward, and learning from it instead of, and helping others is helping ourselves. We don't do it to help ourselves, but that's a byproduct of it. Wouldn't you agree, Jenna? Yeah. Gayann, do you have
Absolutely.
thank you.
I'm advocating for other advocates. I mentioned my two sisters are helping my mom who now has Alzheimer's, and my sisters really don't know a whole lot about cognitive issues, dementia, and Alzheimer's. And so I am constantly, feeding them information, whether it's a website or an article in AARP magazine that I scour every month. And so I try to help them be better advocates for my mom because they're there with her every day. But I try to give them information that will be useful for them. And I know that that's kind of my area of expertise. And I think Jeff said it too. It's like, don't, admit when you don't know something, use your strengths. And we all have strengths, but it might not be exactly what the person needs, right? So use your strengths.
Right. There's another topic that the four of us talked about the other day, and it's a new topic in this whole advocacy realm that I want to share with all of you today that we think is really important. And that's that all of you, that everybody, and this is part of advocating for you and for your loved ones. And if you're in second or third marriages, for your significant others. And it's really about getting your ducks in a row, about having a will and a living will and a medical power of attorney and a durable power of attorney and all of those things. Not only having that, also letting people in the family know what your wishes are and getting agreement. It came up because a very dear friend of mine of 26 years passed away a couple weeks ago. And the second wife was made the medical power of attorney. The kids swooped in from out of town, and there was a lot of dysfunction and a lot of it was just it wasn't pretty in terms of them wanting to take that over. And the truth is that if my friend had talked to the children and had let them know what his wishes were, it could have helped a lot without all of that push-pull at the hospital and with the nurses and the medical professionals and all of that. So we wanted to bring that up today, that we all born, we're all going to be leaving. And it's really, there's a poem, it's how you live your dash between between your birth and your passing. However, it's the most loving thing you can do to get all your ducks in a row, not only for you, but then when you're gone, so there's no infighting and everybody's very clear what your wishes are. And it can really prevent some of the things that I watched happen a couple weeks ago. So that's part of this whole advocacy thing too. And if you don't get anything out of today, please take that with you. So panelists, let me take a look at the next one, and that's Gayann. So there are people, and you and I have talked about this, that just if it's due to where they're at in their life, if it's due to how you're raised, don't make waves. If it's due to some form of disability, where they're more caught in the dis instead of the ability. How do you find advocates when you don't know what to do, where to go? And you've got those slides.
Yes, this is kind of an overwhelming task sometimes, is where else can you go? And the first place I always say is talk to your immediate circle, your network, and talk to your doctor, talk to your the medical offices that you're working with, talk to Yeah, oh, right, AARP, Prepare to Care. Trudy posted some resource there for us with AARP. Thank you, Trudy. So you really have to kind of figure out what exactly are you looking for? You know, maybe you have your memory isn't as good as it used to be, or maybe you're having pains, or maybe you're confused about something going on with your financial situation, or you need some advice about a will situation. So depending on what you're looking for, there are always resources out there, but you might have to call, make some phone calls, do some research online, or get a friend to do some research online for you to figure out where to go about getting some advocacy in some certain area. Now, there's a number of places that I recommend to people. Now, most of these places are state, a lot of state agencies and organizations that get federal funding. So the federal funding means that it's in every state, it's in every territory. And so most states have all of these organizations. They might have slightly different names. They might be in slightly different departments within your state government. But a great one for people who are aging is the Aging and Disability Resource Centers, and every state has that. And they may have a resource for you. They may have connect you with a local provider if you have a specific need. Usually these are around housing, medical care, those kinds of things. The Area Agency on Aging, again, every state has, this is kind of part of the Aging and Disability Resource Center system. And so those local agencies, whether you need, nutrition support or in-home care or whatever, their focus is to help people stay in their homes. It's a lot cheaper for people to stay in their homes, for everybody involved, right? So you don't have to end up in a nursing home or some kind of assisted living even. So if you're interested in staying in your own home, this organization in every community, not in the tiny communities, but in a lot of slightly larger communities. I grew up in South Dakota, so I know there's not one in every town there. But anyway, local agencies in a lot of the slightly larger towns. Brain injuries, and also your doctors and doctors' offices can connect you to those folks. Brain injuries, if you have a brain injury, the Brain Injury Association of America can connect you to your state organizations that can provide case management and connections to Medicare for people with brain injuries. Most states have a waiver, a Medicaid waiver, I should say, but certainly a lot of resources for people with any kind of cognitive issues. And again, if you have any kind of health issues, whether it's a brain injury or Parkinson's or Alzheimer's, in every state there are centers that can provide you with a ton of resources and potentially supports, because they have all types of different things like documents they can send you. They have connections to different medical personnel that they can send you lists of people to talk to. They have support groups. So a variety of ways that you can get resources, and these people then in turn can help you get connected to local advocates. The behavioral health and mental health systems, the probably the most well-known resource is the 988, the Suicide and Crisis Lifeline, that's nationwide now. And but you can also look for local treatment. So if you're feeling down, if you're feeling depressed, if you or a family member is, certainly reaching out to these local agencies by going through this, finding treatment or calling the 988 Lifeline, you'll be referred to local people. Adult protective services, every state has adult protective services. So if you have been taken advantage of, or somebody that you know has been taken advantage of, it could be financially, it could be some kind of physical or emotional abuse. Adult protective services is available in every state. And so you definitely want to reach out to your county human services and ask for adult protective services, because there are a lot of laws around elder abuse and so definitely resources there.
Gayann, the question, are most of these nonprofits?
There are some nonprofits like the Aging and Disability Resource Centers. In some places, in some states, they're run by the state, and other places they're run by nonprofits. The state contracts with a nonprofit. So they're either government agencies, local government agencies, or nonprofits. But again, in every state, it could be different. And the majority of these services, that there's no charge for them. You know, if they refer you to you know, a local senior center, there's no charge for any of that. They'll just talk to you and walk you through it, and you know, you can call as many times as you want. So the Centers for Independent Living are also a great resource, and they're in every state and territory. And if you have any type of a disability, it could be a mental health disability, it could be illness, it could be something like Parkinson's or ALS or whatever. It could be a disability that, you know, if you were born with a cognitive disability, you know, it could be virtually anything. And they have some great services. And again, their whole focus is to keep people from going into nursing homes, helping people stay as independent as possible. And if you are in a nursing home and you really, like, you know, I've known people that have went to nursing homes when they were in their like 20s and 30s because they were in a bad car accident. These organizations, these Centers for Independent Living, that are in every state and in every region of the states, their whole goal is to help people get out of nursing homes if that's what the person wants, and if that's what the level of service they can get outside of a nursing home. So keeping people in the community. Also wanted to just mention, and we've mentioned a few of these, but how to network for an advocate, and your healthcare provider, a mental health care provider, your faith-based community. A lot of times will have advocacy available through their ministerial staff. A goal-specific advocate. You know, you wanna have some assistance with setting up a will and trusts and things like that, for example. Then in employment, if somebody's interested in employment and has any kind of a disability, Division of Vocational Rehabilitation is in every state, in every territory. And so they can certainly help with that. And they help people who are seniors and going back to work also. So it's not just, you know, kids coming out of high school or anything like that. Yes.
Is there a place to seek help? This is
Oh.
a chat. Is there a place to seek help in dealing with medical centers, physician billing geniuses who don't apply or misapply my payments?
Wow. Man, that's a very good question. I don't know of any place, like, in general. I guess I've heard that if you have been, if you feel like your medical system has ripped you off in some way, charged you with things that you didn't get or receive, you know, the whole surprise billing law that went into effect. But I've heard if you're not getting where you need to go with that, is to call the Attorney General's office. And I have never done that personally, but I have spent many, many hours on the phone with physician billing places and my insurance company, because my insurance company sure doesn't want to pay for things that I never received, right? They don't even want to pay for things I did receive. So those are my two few ideas about that. So sorry, I wish I I wish I knew how to do that because I'd probably be a wealthy person by now, I'm sure. So, but the protection and advocacy systems, these are also statewide. I just put the example of Disability Law Colorado. They get federal government money to provide protection and advocacy. And for people with disabilities, elders, and other underrepresented populations, youth coming out of high school, transitioning to adult services that maybe aren't getting approved, Medicaid, not so much Medicare, but anyway, every state has these protection and advocacy systems. And a state agency or a private nonprofit agency provides free protection, advocacy, free legal assistance for people that feel like their rights have been violated in some way. Of course, your county human services department, definitely you want to make friends with people there. Oh, this is a good one. Trudy mentions if it's Medicare related, each state has a senior Medicare patrol that might be able to assist. I also know if you've had I also know if you've had an issue with Medicare or Medicaid, you could call your state legislators and your Congress people and say, this is what's going on with me. I need help from somewhere higher than the local from the local Medicaid office for sure. And they are amazing. If you get in touch with the right people, they can work wonders for you. So definitely don't overlook your elected officials, specifically in the state and federal legislatures. It's definitely a support. And area agency on aging, I mentioned that on the previous page. And Colorado Crisis Services, I just put that here as an example, but every state has a crisis service organization. So a crisis service mainly usually is mental health related, but it also could be related to homelessness. They can connect you with a lot of different people. United Ways also are really great advocates and resources for people who are having challenges living in the community independently or financially. A lot of resources for people who are homeless or are being evicted or in danger of being homeless. So just a ton of resources out there. But I do want to tell you, sometimes you call places and they say, well, call 211 or, well, call, and you know that they should be able to provide resources or some kind of help from their agency. I did this the other day with a person. I work at a mental health center, and I called the local housing navigation center, and I got a person that answered the phone and didn't know anything. Let's face it. So anyway, I called back half an hour later and I asked for somebody else. I said, could I speak to the housing homeless navigator? And actually talk to a person that was, actively involved in serving people, not the gatekeeper at the front desk, and got tons of help. So don't take no for an answer. Don't take, oh, we don't really do that, call 211, or don't take, if you have a feeling that there are resources available, please, call back, be persistent. I think that was one of the first things out of Joanne's mouth this morning was be persistent.
Right.
So,
And Lori, in terms of your chat here about the medical center's billing function, I don't know if you've done this already, you may have, but ask to talk to the managing partner, ask to talk to whoever is in charge of the medical center, maybe stop by the medical center and find out who's who and what's what and what recourse you can take. Those are just some other ideas if you haven't done them already. So thank you, Gayann, for putting that comprehensive list together. There was a question, any specific suggestions for finding an advocate to be my medical proxy? I want to hire someone to speak for me and then check on me regularly if I'm ever unconscious or hospitalized.
wow. You know, I don't really, other than family or friend, trust a trustworthy person that you have. I mean, you could ask your primary care physician if they have any recommendations.
There is, I can't think of it right now, and you'll have to forgive me, EL. That there are, I remember a friend of mine volunteered, and it was something with a geriatric organization that she became, and I can't remember the name right now, I'm so sorry, but she actually became that person.
Mm.
But I'm gonna have to call her and find out more about that.
I
Debbie,
would,
I'll let you know, get that to Trudy
yeah.
too.
I would definitely talk to your local area agency on aging too. I flip back to this slide here. I would definitely talk to them about it and see, call the 1-800 number, find a local agency and see if that's a local resource they have. Because I know there's got to be somebody out there that does that and
Yeah.
is either paid to do it or volunteers and has been trained in how to do that.
There it is, and I'm gonna
Yeah.
call my friend who
Yeah.
actually was involved in that, and I'll get back to Debbie and Debbie to Trudy and answer that. Great question.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much. So let's go to the next slide because I'm looking
Yeah.
at the time.
Oh,
It's
yes.
we have 10 more minutes, and I had asked the panel to put together some of their favorite quotes and tie it to advocacy. So Jeffrey, pick one of these and read it, and then talk about what that has anything to do with what we're talking about today.
I guess I'll just go with the nitty gritty. I've missed more than 9,000 shots in my career. I've lost almost 300 games. 26 times I've been trusted to take the game-winning shot and missed. I've failed over and over and over again in my life, and that is why I succeed. And this is debatably the best athlete ever, Michael Jordan. And a big part of that for me is, when we go on these missions, no matter what they are, I try to prepare myself. We've mentioned it. You might get you make one phone call, you get 3 more phone numbers. You start making those phone calls, you get an email and a website and on and on and on. And so it can get frustrating. And so, just being patient and recognizing that, I got to take a deep breath and, this isn't going to happen in 5 minutes. It might take me 4 days. And then I pick up the phone, so.
That's a great quote by Michael Jordan. Thank you. Gayann?
Well, I think Martin Luther King Jr.'s quote is pretty phenomenal in my life. Our lives begin to end the day we become silent about things that matter. And I just think whether it's your own situation or someone else's situation, you have to speak up. If you just sit there and take it, nothing's going to change. Nothing's going to get better.
Great. Jenna?
Slight delay, my mousing, sorry. You've already heard me say this, like if somebody's in your way and an impediment in your healing journey, whatever that looks like for you, then remove the obstacle, as difficult as that may be.
Okay, so you're quoting I have Jenna Taylor's neurologist. Is that the one you're quoting right there?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Because stress creates disease, and we have to do what we can to remove that stress.
Right. Okay. I'm going to give you 2 of them. One is John Lennon's "Everything will be okay in the end. If it's not okay, it's not the end." I always think that's a good one. And I love this one by a surgeon. "Better is possible. It does not take genius. It takes diligence. It takes moral clarity. It takes ingenuity. And above all, it takes a willingness to try." And that's what this whole thing on advocacy is, a willingness to try and keep going and with patience and perseverance. So with that, we can put down the slideshow, and I have one last question for the panelists. And that question, let me get these glasses on so I can see it. What sage words of wisdom or advice do you have for our participants today? And what would your advice, tips, suggestions, and ideas B, for people to advocate for themselves or find someone to advocate for them. So leave us with your final sage words of wisdom, Gayann.
Oh, heck, can you go to somebody else first?
Okay, Jeffrey.
I was busy taking down the slideshow and I wasn't even
Okay,
listening to what you
Jeffrey?
just said.
Sage words of wisdom.
Yeah, I think one of the biggest things that I had to battle for early on was to find that value in myself. You know, I was surrounded by professionals. I was surrounded by, you know, all kinds of things happening, and advocating for myself became a lot smoother and a lot more powerful once I was able to see the value in what I was seeking, the value in myself, the importance of it. And just recognizing that on the other side of it, you know, there are doctors that have a really long list of things to do today. And, you know, it was okay that I was one out of a million, but then I had to flip that around and, you know, recognize the importance of, you know, that they were serving me, and B, you know, I wasn't just a patient, I was a client. You know, the money they're making is me. You know, they were serving me, and I had to remember that.
They have their job because of you.
Yes.
Jenna, sage words of wisdom. that you
Yeah,
want-
I wrote down that it's empower, inspire, and encourage hope and belief in the ability to recover to the best extent possible. And I mentioned this before, but there's Nick Vujicic. Sorry, I can't remember how to pronounce his name, but he was born with no arms and no legs, and he's a global motivational speaker, and he is a father of 4 children, and he lives and leads a meaningful and fulfilling life. And so we don't, there's no perfection, and the importance of helping other people.
Thank you. Gayann.
Okay, now I'm ready. I think my sage words of wisdom are research and find out what your options are, regardless of whatever the issue is that you're trying to handle. And then be crystal clear about what you want. What are your goals? And then it'll be much easier to go forward and find help, find resources. Because if you show up in somebody's doorstep or make a phone call and you're not sure what you want, they're not going to know how to help you. So figure out your options and be clear about your goal.
Thank you. Well, we want to thank all of you for signing up and being here with us today for this discussion on advocacy and being your own advocate and traits, and finding somebody to be an advocate if you need that, or the traits that you'll need to have if you're advocating for someone, family, friends, whatever. We really appreciate the time that you've spent with us, and just go forth and advocate. So with that, I'm going to turn it over back to you, Debbie and Trudy. We are offering to stay over for about 15 minutes. If any of you want to stay, Debbie will turn off the recording. And if you have any personal questions or things you want to talk about, the panel will be here for a few minutes. Debbie, Trudy?
Yeah, just one quick thing. Patty, do you have any summation words from LLI?
The only thing I would say is a thank you everyone for joining us. We really value our collaboration with AARP, and we thoroughly enjoy interacting with people from all over the United States. So this is fun. Today's was really self-help and very, very informative. Friday's is going to be pure pleasure. This is a retired FBI profiler, and she specialized in serial killers. So
Pleasure.
I think it's going to be a lot of fun, and I invite you to join us on Friday. Thanks again.
Might be
Well,
more
and
entertaining.
the third program we have in this 3-part series on, correct me if I've got the date wrong, July 24th at 1:30, is about Robert Oppenheimer. So
Excuse me, it's 10,
that one will be educational as well.
excuse me, Trudy, it's 10 a.m.
10 a.m.
It's
on
in the
the
morning.
24th.
It is at 10. Okay,
Yeah.
sorry.
Yeah.
So I say you can get access to registering for those at aarp.org local. If you're one of our AARP guests, and the LLI Nova folks can register through their website as well. And I just want to say thank you so much to Patty and Debbie and the team at LLI Nova for including us in some of these presentations as well. Thank you for allowing us to have our members join you.
Okay, I'm going to stop recording right now.